4 championship rings, 13 years together, 173 career triple-doubles between them. And now, the Golden State Warriors organization is reportedly prepared to break up the most successful core in franchise history to chase something that could redefine the entire landscape of professional basketball. The decision being discussed behind closed doors at Chase Center right now connects our immediate playoff positioning with a move so massive that it would send shockwaves through every team in the league and potentially create the most unstoppable duo we've seen since Shaq and Kobe. Welcome to Warriors News Fan Report, your exclusive source for breaking updates, comprehensive analysis, and insider perspectives on our beloved Golden State Warriors. I'm here today to walk you through a developing situation that has the potential to transform everything we know about this franchise's future. And by the end of this breakdown, you'll understand why the next few weeks could determine whether we get one more legitimate championship run with our core or whether we're about to witness the biggest roster overhaul in Warriors history. Let me start by establishing exactly where we are as a franchise heading into the most critical stretch of this season. We're sitting at 13-12, which puts us 8th in the Western Conference. That's not where we expected to be at this point. That's not the standard we've set over the past decade. We're a franchise that's been to 6 finals and won 4 championships since 2015. We've redefined how basketball is played at the highest level. We've built a dynasty that will be talked about for generations. But right now, in December of 2025, we're fighting just to stay in the playoff picture in a Western Conference that's absolutely loaded with talent and ambition. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder are dominating the conference. We've got young, hungry teams like the Timberwolves and Grizzlies playing at elite levels. We've got the Nuggets still dangerous with Jokic. The competition is fierce, and our current roster construction has shown vulnerabilities that can't be ignored if we're serious about competing for another championship. Stephen Curry recently missed time with a quad injury that had all of Warriors Nation holding their breath. He's expected back soon, which is tremendous news, but that injury scare reminded us of something crucial. Steph is 37 years old now. His championship window isn't infinite. Every season matters. Every opportunity to surround him with championship-caliber talent must be seized because we don't know how many more years we have of Steph playing at an MVP-caliber level. The urgency is real. The pressure is mounting. And the Warriors organization, led by ownership that's proven they're willing to spend whatever it takes to win, is reportedly considering moves that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. Now, I've been monitoring trade discussions, analyzing roster construction possibilities, studying salary cap implications, and following insider reports for weeks, trying to understand what direction this franchise might go. The rumors have been swirling about potential moves. We've heard Jonathan Kuminga's name mentioned repeatedly in trade conversations. We've heard Brandon Podziemski discussed as a valuable young asset that other teams covet. But there's been one name that's come up in discussions that represents something far bigger than a typical roster adjustment. This isn't about adding a role player or upgrading a bench piece. This is about potentially making one of the biggest trades in NBA history, to pair Steph Curry with another generational superstar who could extend our championship window and give us a legitimate chance to win another title before Steph hangs it up. The player I'm talking about is someone who's been dominating the Eastern Conference for years. He's a 2-time MVP who's established himself as one of the most physically dominant forces the league has ever seen. He's averaging historically great numbers. He's a player who can score from anywhere, defend multiple positions, facilitate offense, and take over games in ways that only a handful of players in NBA history have been able to do. And according to NBA insider Jake Fisher, the Golden State Warriors are actively exploring what it would take to bring this superstar to the Bay Area and create a partnership with Steph Curry that could rival any duo we've seen in modern basketball. But here's where this gets complicated and where Warriors Nation needs to prepare for a conversation that's going to be emotionally difficult. no matter how you feel about the basketball strategy behind it. To acquire a player of this magnitude, you can't just package together draft picks and young prospects. You need to include established star power. You need to give up something that hurts. You need to make the kind of sacrifice that demonstrates to the other team that you're serious about getting this done. And according to Fisher's reporting, there's one player that the Warriors would be willing to move to make this blockbuster trade happen, and it's someone who's been absolutely fundamental to everything we've accomplished over the past decade. I want you to think about the identity of Warriors basketball over our championship years. Think about the defensive intensity, the emotional leadership, the toughness, the basketball IQ, the willingness to do all the dirty work that doesn't show up in the box score. Think about the player who guards the opponent's best scorer every night, who sets the screens that free up Steph for those three-pointers, who organizes our defense, who brings that edge and competitive fire that's been the backbone of our success. We're talking about someone who's been named Defensive Player of the Year, who's made multiple All-Star teams, who's been selected to all NBA teams, and who's got 4 championship rings that he earned through blood, sweat, and sacrifice for this organization. The player the Warriors would reportedly be willing to trade to make this happen is Draymond Green. Let that sink in for a moment. Draymond Green, who's been as important to our dynasty as anyone not named Steph Curry, the heart and soul of our team, the defensive anchor, the vocal leader, the player who Steph has shared the court with for 13 years, building something special. According to Fisher, Draymond is the only player in the entire league that Golden State would be willing to move Green for, and that player is Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Warriors. Imagine that for a second. Imagine the Greek freak in blue and gold, running pick and rolls with Steph Curry, protecting the rim on defense, attacking in transition with that otherworldly athleticism, playing off Steph's gravity to create easy opportunities. Imagine what opposing teams would have to deal with trying to defend both Steph Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo simultaneously. How do you game plan for that? Do you switch everything and risk having smaller defenders on Giannis? Do you go drop coverage and give Steph open three-pointers? Do you double Steph and leave Giannis in one-on-one situations where he's virtually unguardable? The strategic problems this would create for opponents are almost impossible to solve. Fisher stated explicitly that between Draymond, Jonathan Kuminga, and Brandon Podziemski, the Warriors suddenly have an intriguing package that Milwaukee would have to seriously consider if they're actually making Giannis available. That's significant because it means the Warriors have the assets to get this done without completely gutting the entire roster. We could potentially keep Andrew Wiggins, keep our core role players, keep enough depth to compete, while adding a legitimate top 5 player in the league to pair with Steph for what could be one last championship push. Now, I need to address the Milwaukee side of this equation because trades don't happen in a vacuum. The Bucks are currently underperforming expectations. They've got Giannis paired with Damian Lillard, and that partnership hasn't produced the results they hoped for. There are persistent questions about whether Giannis is happy long-term in Milwaukee, whether he wants to compete for championships on a bigger stage, whether he's willing to demand a trade if the Bucks don't improve their roster construction. Giannis is currently out 2 to 4 weeks with a calf strain, but is expected to return fully healthy around the new year. That injury, while concerning in the short term, doesn't change his long-term value as one of the absolute best players on the planet. If Milwaukee decides that they need to move on from this era and rebuild around younger assets, a package centered around Draymond Green as a veteran leader who could mentor their young players, plus Jonathan Kuminga, who's a former top 7 pick with tremendous upside, plus Brandon Podziemski, who's shown he can contribute immediately, plus the draft compensation that would inevitably be included. In a deal of this magnitude, that's a haul that could set the Bucks up for their next competitive window while acknowledging that the current core isn't working. But let's talk about the competition for Giannis, because we're not the only franchise that would love to pair him with their superstar. The Los Angeles Lakers have been mentioned repeatedly as a potential destination, especially with their own roster questions and their desire to maximize whatever time they have left with their core. The New York Knicks have been aggressive in pursuing stars and have the assets to make a competitive offer. The Miami Heat, with their organizational culture and winning pedigree, are always in the conversation for available superstars. This isn't going to be easy. This isn't going to be a situation where we just make an offer and Milwaukee accepts. This is going to be a bidding war involving multiple franchises, and the Warriors are going to have to put their best offer on the table. The cost of trading Draymond Green cannot be understated, and I want to be completely honest with Warriors Nation about what we'd be giving up. Draymond has been the emotional leader of this franchise for over a decade. He's the guy who holds everyone accountable. He's the defensive coordinator on the floor. He's the player who does all the little things that winning teams need. His basketball IQ is off the charts. His ability to facilitate offense from the forward position is unique. His defensive versatility allows us to switch everything and play the style that's made us so successful. Losing Draymond would fundamentally change the identity of Warriors basketball. But here's the argument for why this trade could make sense despite that emotional difficulty. Draymond is 35 years old. His offensive game has declined significantly over the past few seasons, to the point where teams routinely leave him wide open and dare him to shoot. His value is entirely predicated on his defense and playmaking, which are still elite, but we have to acknowledge that his championship window is closing along with Steph's. If we can trade Draymond plus young assets for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's 30 years old and in the absolute prime of his career, we're extending our competitive window significantly. We're giving ourselves a chance to compete for championships for the next 4 or 5 years, instead of maybe 1 or 2 more runs with the current core. The fit between Giannis and Steph would be absolutely seamless from a basketball standpoint. Giannis needs to play with a dynamic shooter who can space the floor and create opportunities in the pick and roll. Steph needs to play with a dominant big who can finish at the rim, grab rebounds, protect the paint, and take defensive responsibility away from him. They complement each other perfectly. The offensive sets we could run with both of them would be unstoppable. Steph-Giannis pick and roll, with Wiggins spotting up in the corner and Kuminga cutting to the rim if we keep him. That's a championship offense right there. Nobody in the league could guard that consistently. Defensively, while we lose Draymond's organization and communication, Giannis is arguably a better overall defender at this point in their careers. He can guard positions 1 through 5. He's a legitimate rim protector with his length and athleticism. He creates deflections and steals at an elite rate, and his help defense instincts are phenomenal. We'd have to adjust our defensive schemes and communication without Draymond, but Giannis gives us capabilities on that end that we simply don't have right now. The salary cap implications of this move are complex but manageable. Giannis is on a supermax contract that would take up a significant portion of our cap space, but we're already in luxury tax territory, and our ownership has shown they're willing to pay whatever it costs to win. Trading Draymond's contract would help offset some of Giannis's salary, and if we're including young players like Kuminga and Podziemski in the deal, we're opening up additional roster flexibility. The financial side can be made to work if both teams are committed to getting this done. I also want to address the argument that some Warriors fans will make about loyalty and respecting what Draymond has done for this franchise. That's a completely valid emotional response. Draymond has earned the right to retire as a Warrior if he wants to. He's been absolutely crucial to everything we've accomplished. But we also have to remember that this is a business, and if Draymond himself understands that trading him for Giannis gives the Warriors the best chance to win another championship with Steph, he might actually support this move despite how difficult it would be personally. Draymond is a winner above everything else. He wants championships. If he believes this trade gives us the best chance to get one more, he might be willing to accept it. The timeline for when this could happen is important to understand. We're currently in late December, approaching the halfway point of the season. The trade deadline is in early February. That gives teams about 6 weeks to evaluate their rosters, determine whether they're buyers or sellers, and make the moves necessary to position themselves for the playoff push. If the Bucks continue struggling, and if Giannis indicates any willingness to move, things could accelerate quickly. The Warriors need to be prepared to act decisively when and if this opportunity presents itself. There is also the question of how Steph Curry would feel about trading his longtime teammate and friend for Giannis. Steph and Draymond have been through everything together over 13 years. They've won 4 championships together. They've built something special together. But Steph is also a competitor who wants to win more championships before he retires. If the Warriors organization comes to him and says, "We have a chance to bring in Giannis, but it requires trading Draymond, and we believe this gives us the best chance to win another title," I believe Steph would ultimately support it, despite the personal difficulty. He's proven throughout his career that winning matters most. Let me break down what a Warriors starting lineup with Giannis would look like, and why it would be so devastating. You'd have Steph Curry at point guard, probably Andrew Wiggins at shooting guard, assuming we keep him, maybe Gary Payton too, or Moses Moody at small forward, depending on matchups, Giannis at power forward. And we'd need to figure out the center position, but that becomes much less crucial when you have Giannis protecting the rim. That's a starting 5 that can compete with anyone in the league. The offensive versatility, the defensive capability, the star power, everything you need to win championships is there. The bench would obviously be thinner if we're trading multiple players to get Giannis, but that's where minimum signings and buyout market additions become crucial. Championship teams always find ways to fill out their roster with veterans willing to take less money for a chance to win a ring. If we have Steph Curry and Giannis Antetokounmpo, players will want to come here. We'll have our pick of available talent throughout the season. Here's my final assessment on this entire situation. The Golden State Warriors trading Draymond Green for Giannis Antetokounmpo would be the boldest, most aggressive move this franchise has made since trading for Kevin Durant back in free agency during the summer of 2016. It would signal that ownership and management are all in on maximizing Steph's remaining years. It would give us a legitimate chance to win multiple championships over the next 4 or 5 years instead of hoping everything breaks right for one more run with the current aging core. And while it would be emotionally devastating to see Draymond in a different uniform, it's the kind of move that championship organizations have to be willing to make when the opportunity presents itself. Warriors Nation, I absolutely need to hear your thoughts on this blockbuster possibility. Would you support trading Draymond Green plus young assets for Giannis Antetokounmpo? Do you think the fit between Giannis and Steph would be as seamless as I'm projecting? Are you comfortable breaking up the core that brought us 4 championships for one more shot at glory? Drop your detailed thoughts in the comments below because this is the most important conversation we'll have all season. About the direction of this franchise, make sure you're subscribed to Warriors News Fan Report and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates as this situation develops throughout the coming weeks. We'll be tracking every report, every development, and every angle of this potential franchise-altering trade. This is Warriors basketball at a crossroads, and I'll be here breaking down every detail with the analysis and passion you've come to expect. Let's build the next dynasty together. Dubs Nation, forever.